Fish. Got him. That was on the crawler harness. So today I'm out chasing pre-spawn walleye. Water temps are only 40 degrees, so still very cold, just right on the edge of where a walleye will start to think about spawning. They really prefer those temperatures closer to 44, 46, up to 50 for spawn. So pre-spawn fishing can be pretty good, especially if you can find out where they're hanging out. And I really like to use bottom walkers, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a comparison today between a crawler harness and the Super Death Hook rigs, which I have a Super Death Hook rig here on the right. It looks like the crawler harness might get my first walleye of the day, at least it feels like it. I got a smallmouth bass on the Death rig today. That's a nice walleye. There we go. First one in the boat. Probably go and mark that area so I can come back through here. There we go, first one of the morning. Brought him up from 50 feet, so you can see his stomach is sticking up there. Minimum size in Washington State is 12 inches. This one is easily in excess of that. Nice little eater male. Get him bled and get redeployed back down there. So anytime I'm out using bottom walker rigs for walleye, whether I'm doing pre-spawn or post-spawn or the fall feed, I am going to swing back around and go back through an area if I hook up with a fish. Because in my experience and using the camera underwater, generally where there's one walleye, there are many more. I mean, there are days that are scattered, and that's why if I go through there once or twice and I don't get another bite after going through a few times, then I might consider moving on. But in most cases, I'm gonna tend to find fish stacked in the same area. Fish, fish, fish. Yep. I just replaced that worm too. That's on the Super Death rig. Nice. So my troll speeds I try to keep anywhere from 0.9 to 1.2. Got a squeaky reel here. The reel seat broke on it, so I used a zip tie to hold the reel on there so it didn't pop off. But you want those really slow troll speeds. That's what they seem to like best, especially this pre-spawn really cold water. Nice eater. Male. I'll take it. That's one on the Super Death rig. One on a harness rig. Nice mix so far. There you go. Nice little, really, really pale fish, but sometimes they vary in color. Fish. Yes, fish. Got him on the turn there. That was on the harness rig. Now, a lot of people say that the Super Death rigs are the only way to go, but when I come out and run them side by side like this, I don't really see that big of a difference in terms of the amount of bites I get on one versus the other. That's a really nice walleye. Got him. Sweet. Alright, so there's the walleye I just got. You can see his stomach's coming out of his mouth there, so I pulled him up from 60 feet. And he just hit that blue and gold harness rig that I tied up last night. Alright, it's the third one of the morning. That's a nice fish. Put that one in the bag. Alright, so I'll go and explain the differences between these rigs. First rig I'm running here is what's called a crawler harness rig. It's two or three hooks tied These can just have nothing in front of them. I prefer to throw some beads and a smiley blade up in front of them. You can put a Colorado blade on there. Basically just creating some flash and action, and then you just nose hook the night crawler on the top hook, and then halfway down the crawler you put the other hook through, and that's it. You just drop it to the bottom. The worm just kind of runs straight behind the lure setup there. I always tie my own. They're way overpriced in the store, the pre-tied ones. If you can tie a snell knot, you'll save yourself a ton of money, and you can really customize these things to whatever colors work best for you. So, just to show you how I rig it, clean the worm off, take the nose of the worm, put it through the top hook right there. You're basically just nose hooking it. Kind of stretch that night crawler out. You don't want too much of a tail behind there, so you may have to pinch some off, but just about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way down, throw that other hook through. That's it. Very, very easy to do, hard to mess up. Now, it's always good to check your gear every once in a while. I noticed on a couple times I've replaced with fresh bait, I've noticed oftentimes if I replace with fresh bait, sometimes that leads to a little more hookups. So every 20-30 minutes, pull it up, check your gear, look for weeds, and freshen up that worm if it's gotten soggy and dead. Oop, fish. Yep, fish. Right there. There's fish. Got him. Nice. That's on the Super Death hook and the squeaky reel. I just use 7.5 to 8 foot medium power rods. I like glass or graphite. I think either works fine for this. Composites. I kind of like the softer feel of glass. Just helps them load up a little bit more. And then I just run a 10-pound mainline Maxima Ultra Green on line counters. Oh yeah, nice walleye. Got him. Take that. There you go. On the Super Death rig hook. Still a split today. Seems to be flip-flopping back and forth between both of them. Not a bad fish though. Take that. Oop, fish, fish, fish. Oh. And nope, just hung up. That's not good. Okay. Let that one go. Let's see if we can't bring this in. See if we can get this rig back, hopefully. It's always good to have a whole bunch of stuff pre-tied, leaders all ready to go, so that you don't have to spend time retying all the time. So always try and get back on the other, going the other direction that the hooks originally got snagged in. A lot of times you don't want to pull straight up over it, you actually want to go past it. And a lot of times you'll be able to just pop that rig off. Could just spin some woody debris or a boulder down there. I think I got it, so that's good. Just want to make sure you check your hooks after something like that though, just so make sure there's no dulling or anything if they got hung up on a rock or a log. I'm getting really deep out here right now. It's almost 70 feet. And it takes quite a bit of line to get 3 or 4 ounces down to that depth. I'm usually about 120, 140 feet now. You know, my general rule is to do an ounce for every 10 feet that I'm fishing. So if I'm fishing 20, 30 feet deep, then I'll probably run a 2 ounce bottom walker and so on and so forth. So 3 for 30 to 40, 4 for 40 to 50. You won't find a whole lot of manufacturers making bottom walkers beyond 4 ounces, so kind of just got to make do. I could probably get a little bit less blowback and have to let out less line if I actually ran like a 30-pound braid or 20-pound braid. But I do like the stretch of the mono. In the past I have run braid, and one of the things I noticed is I actually tend to miss more of my fish, I think, because it just transmits the bite so much more efficiently that I see it, I grab the rod a little bit too soon, whereas the mono is a little bit slower, so it allows them time to chew on it and load up, and then I just use the kayak to set the hook. Fish. Yep. Nice. Oh, I think I might have lost him. I jumped the gun on that one. I should have let it load up just a bit more. Cut my worm in half. Darn it. Well, it's been 2 hours without a bite, and that is not unusual with pre-spawn walleye. It's not all that unusual with walleye in general. They have these very specific bite windows where they will go on the feed and they will shut off, and then it can just as quickly turn back on. And it's not always associated with the morning. Sometimes some of my best walleye bites have been in mid-afternoon. So I'm going to switch up some colors here. I've been running a lot of sort of classic, my favorite walleye colors, which is blues, greens, orange. I'm going to switch up to some otter colors here. I'm going to try some purple and see if that gives me any change in my luck. I doubt that it will, because I think it's just that I'm outside of a bite window, but I think part of what keeps me engaged is just switching through gear, cycling through gear, and trying different things. So I typically tie both of my crawler rigs and slow death rigs on leaders that are about 5 to 4.5 foot long on 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. And I have a whole video on how to tie up walleye crawler rigs, and I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. Well, definitely did not end the day the way I started the day. I had a really good consistent bite from when I got here, around 10:30, 11, and then it just pretty much died off. I poked my nose out into the main body of the lake where it was a little bit cooler, and I think I squandered a period of the bite when it was on, and by the time I came back in here, I just had one more grab, and then that was pretty much it for the rest of the time. I've just had a couple little taps here and there, but nothing that convinced me that we were really aggressively on the feed, and those could have been perch or something like that. So, but you know, for walleye, still a really decent day out on the water. It was great to be out here taking advantage of the pre-spawn bite. I didn't see any strong patterns today between crawler harness rigs versus the slow death rigs, which has always been my experience. I, in fact, generally prefer the crawler rigs just because they're simpler to get the worm on there, so it's faster. And oftentimes I seem to be able to get multiple fish out of a single worm rather than on the slow death rigs. They just seem to destroy those worms when they bite that rig. So anyways, I'll put links to everything I use below, and I'll see you next time out on the water. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye guys.